everyone. Welcome to this interview. I'm here with Dr. Lisa Vallejos. We're at Littleton, Colorado. And I contacted her because I read a really amazing article, very centered and objective about the twin flame thing. And I think it's good that we can share with you some insights and talk about this really deep subject, because there's a lot of confusion and people are really going crazy about the twin flame thing, and I think most people are getting it wrong. So thank you, Lisa, for accepting this interview.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you.
So tell me, how did you come across the twin flame idea?
Well, I met this, I kind of call her like a storefront psychic, which really, literally what she was. I had a relationship that this was years ago, and this woman said, this person is your twin flame. And I thought, that's interesting. I don't even know what the hell that means. So I started researching and looking into it, and I thought, once I read a bit about it, I felt like, well, no, this person is definitely not that, but I became intrigued with the subject. And so this was 2013, I believe, and I just started really studying more and listening to videos on YouTube and trying to understand the dynamic. Started researching. I'm an academic, so I have a PhD in psychology. I am a researcher. I'm an academic. Although my PhD has an emphasis in spiritual psychology, I like research. I like data. I like information that shows me that something is real and it's not just this imagined thing. So in my journey, I started reading books around, by Dr. Brian Weiss, who is a psychiatrist who does past life regressions, and I started reading work by, trying to remember, Thomas More.
Did you come across Elizabeth Clare Prophet?
I did, yeah.
Did.
And so I started reading all of these really grounded books, and I thought, there's something to this. There really is something to this kind of spiritually based connection. Incidentally, one of my favorite authors, a guy by the name of Jeff Brown, he actually went to the same grad school that I went to, so yay, wrote a book called Uncommon Bonds. Mm-hmm. And I read that book when it came out, and it's describing this type of dynamic, which then of course led me to go back to the original research that he based his book on. And so I've basically just went on this whole rabbit hole of understanding this connection and really determining what, outside of the romanticized version of what people like to think it is, what it really is, which led to me writing that article that has gone crazy viral. And
really great article.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So from your research and your experience, what's exactly the twin flame relationship?
Oh, it's the most heart-wrenching, soul-crushing. No, it really, not soul-crushing, soul-ripping, because my belief about the twin flame connection is that it is not about the romanticized version that people like to talk about. It's about transformation. It's about enlightenment. It's about pulling all of the stuff in your soul and your spirit that's weighing you down, and you see it, and then you have an opportunity to shed it. I say, there's a quote, and I cannot remember who said it, but it's that enlightenment is a destructive process, and the twin flame connection is about enlightenment. It's about knowing yourself. It's about becoming the spiritual version of yourself that you're meant to be, not who you've been socialized or taught to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is a very interesting part of the twin flame, that sort of destruction that needs to happen in order for us to reveal who we truly are. And so a lot of people might think that twin flame relationship is a toxic relationship, and part of it is because it's destructive. Yet how can you maybe differentiate between just a simple toxic relationship and a twin flame toxic part of the relationship?
Well, the twin flame thing, there's a couple of differentiating things. The twin flame connection is, in my opinion and my belief, is it's never abusive. Now, you may act out of your trauma, act out of your pain. You may be reactive because you get hurt. There may be those kinds of things, right? But it's never abusive. Does that make sense? I hope there's a differentiation.
Yeah.
So
what do you mean by abusive, so we can understand?
Willingly inflicting pain on somebody.
Okay, really.
So I might have like a trigger, and I might say something and like lash out at my twin because I feel triggered. But it's never like I want to hurt you, and this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
That's rarely what that is. It's usually, and there's a difference between that. So if you see people that are continually doing things that
on purpose,
causing,
on purpose.
right? That's abusive.
Different.
That's
Okay.
different. If they don't care that they hurt you, that's an abusive thing. In a twin flame connection, if you hurt your counterpart, you're going to feel that pain too, and you're going to immediately want to make it right, even if it's not, even if you know. Even if they're wrong, right? Even if they're wrong or they've caused you harm and you respond to that, you still want to make it okay. You don't want to hurt them on purpose. So I think that's a really big thing. And the other thing about it is that there can be toxic dynamics in twin flame connections, but part of the purpose of twin flames is to learn how to be unconditionally loving. And that includes to yourself, which means that if there is a toxic pattern that's happening with this connection, that you have to love yourself enough to say, I love you. I unconditionally love you. I will never stop loving you, and I love me, and because I love us both enough, I'm not going to continue to participate in this dynamic. Love has grace, but love also has boundaries. And boundaries doesn't mean like shutting it down. It just means basically that there needs to be a certain standard of communication and connection. Otherwise, it's not healthy.
Exactly, and also this aspect of what you're talking about, twin flames, is related to our third dimensional type of relationship, because, you know, if we are talking about twin flames and we're talking about essentially a spiritual relationship, essentially this is a spiritual relationship. Therefore, at that level of awareness, we're always one.
Right.
We have no need, once we realize that we are one, we have no need to physically be with that person if we are awakened on ourselves enough. Now, one part of the dynamic that it seems to be happening for most people is that when they meet the twin flames, one is not totally awake or aware of themselves, and the other is a little more awakened.
Yeah.
Why do you think this dynamic has to happen this way?
I think that it has to happen this way because until you've had that level of pain, you know, we were talking about it before, this level of pain that kind of rips you to your core, and you're like, you know, that falling on your knees and that kind of, until you've experienced that, you can't really understand the need to transform and to heal. What you start to understand is that if that person, like if you and your twin came together and everything was perfect and there were no challenges and there were no things to work through.
Somebody's in a mess right now. I'm sorry about all the noise in the background, but we're here in the city. Inevitably,
Oh, there they go.
Oh, wow. Well,
so
that's how it is.
that's a good sign. That's
a good sign of twin flames.
It really
burns.
But if it was all easy and perfect, and you would never have the motivation to grow.
So suffering is an important part of the process. For what reason? What reason suffering is an important part of the transformational process?
Well, I would say I wouldn't call it suffering. I call it pain. Suffering feels like a place where you're stuck and you're kind of, but the pain is an important process, because it's like if you went to the doctor and you're like, I don't feel well, they're going to say, well, where does it hurt? And then you can describe where it hurts. So what the pain does is it points to you in the places to you that need healing. So if you feel very abandoned by your twin, well, then you look at the places like, well, where have I abandoned myself? Where have I been abandoned in the past? What wound do I need to heal? So that's the purpose of that, is it kind of illuminates the points of pain so that we can heal them.
Now, many people are obsessed about the twin flame relationship, and they think this is the perfect couple that we're after. Is it really about that?
It can be, but here's the deal: is that people think that like they're going to meet their twin and it's going to be like
the mic.
Oh, it fell. That's funny. They think that they meet their twin and it's going to be like perfect, you know, happily ever after, and that's rarely, I don't think ever, actually what happens. it's possible to come into union and to have like this perfect relationship, to be that ideal couple, but it takes work. You have to do your work. So there's like the twin flame couples that I know. I do know a couple that met and came together and worked together right off the top without any issues. But those are people who were much older and who had done a shit ton of spiritual work in the meantime. Like they were very conscious, aware people. Most people, especially if you meet when you're really young, have a lot of growth to do. So there can be literally 10, 20, 30 years apart while people grow, and then they come back together. I know a twin flame couple here that they were together, they met in their 20s and they didn't fully come back into union and be together as a couple until their late 50s.
Oh, yeah. So it is a process, because we have to unlearn what we have learned.
Right.
We have to uncondition ourselves from all the social and world conditioning, because in this age where we are in a process of transformation, we definitely need to go to the core. And I think the twin flames are appearing for that, because they reach to the core of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so what will you tell all these people, young and not young, that are encountering this concept of twin flames, and they are desperate to find a twin flame first, and desperate to have a relationship with the twin flame next?
Yeah.
What do you...
Well, I would say that that's not realistic. They have a romanticized view of what the twin flame connection is, which I think a lot of people do. If you read it, if you search it now, you see like a lot of articles and people talking about this, and it's like this romantic view. And so I would say that's not the true purpose of a twin flame connection. So you have to get clear about that, rethink that paradigm. And often when people are like, oh, I wish I had known my twin flame, I'm like, why? It's hard. It's not easy. This wasn't. I mean, there were some really great things about, have been some really amazing things about meeting and connecting with my twin, and there have also been some really freaking hard things, some really painful things. And so you have to be prepared for what it really means. It's not going to be this, happily ever after the end kind of situation. It's going to wreck your life. It's going to, your life may be on this path. You meet your twin and suddenly it's like, you go completely different direction. Everything changes. Your way of being, the way you see the world, the way you relate to people, everything changes. Mm-hmm. It has to. That's the purpose. If it's a real twin flame connection, that is what will happen. Your entire life will start to transform and transition, and a lot of people don't understand that.
So I got two more questions, because I know you gotta go. One is, what's the true purpose of the twin flame relationship?
Yeah, it's transformational. It's about transforming ourselves so that we can then go out and transform the world. We live in a 3D reality that's got some pretty toxic paradigms right now. We were talking a little bit about this. Very codependent. There's sort of a cultural narcissism that's happening. People in relationships, it's a very self-centered. Relationships are like, you meet all of, you meet all of my needs, I'll meet all of your needs. It's not realistic. No one person can meet all of your needs. It's just not possible. And it's based on two people looking at each other. Mm-hmm. So the relationships are very like centered on this, whereas the healthy, the new paradigm that we're trying to shift is about two people. There's a poem that says this. It says, "Love is," or it's a quote. "Love does not consist of staring into each other's eyes. It consists of standing together and looking to the future." So twin flame relationships are about transforming paradigms. It's about healing the world. It's about joining together in a shared mission that is about shifting consciousness, raising the vibration of humanity, challenging paradigms together. Mm-hmm. Or even not together, because if you don't come into union, you can still do the work. But the fact of the matter is that until both people are committed to the mission and the purpose, it's going to continue to have difficulties. So to sum it up in a simple phrase, twin flame, the purpose is to join together, healed and whole, and then look toward the future and change the world. Bring that energy of healing and transformation to heal the world. Raise the vibrations of consciousness.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And one question most people ask: how do I know if he's my twin flame? Because I was reading some posts of the twin flame Facebook groups, and everybody's the dark twin or the false twin, and how do I know if this is my false twin? And I said, there's no false twin. false is your belief.
Right.
What you believe that this person is your twin and it's not, that's the false part.
Right.
But the twin, the real twin, there's no false twin. That's totally conditioning, psychological conditioning pattern that we have. So how can we actually, what are the points that you would say, okay, because of this, you can tell this is your twin flame?
Okay. I think the first thing is that you have a love like no other. I have children. The only way I can describe the love that I feel for my twin is that I feel it the same way that I feel for my kids. Like nothing that they would ever do would ever make me not love them. And that's the energy. The other thing is that it's that transformation. If it doesn't provoke you to transform, if it doesn't make you want to be the best version of yourself, it's probably not your twin. If all you're thinking about is a lot of people it's this chemistry, it's this, well, yeah, but you can also have that in karmic relationships.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily an indicator. It's the chemistry is there, but it inspires you to do something more. You don't want to be stuck in something. The other thing is this unmistakable feeling of being at home.
Yeah.
It's like you know this person like you know yourself. Even when you first meet him. It's like everything makes sense. You know them, you understand them, you can finish their thoughts before they do. There's a lot of dream activity will happen. And not just dreams, I'm talking about even what I would call astral projections, where you're literally communing in higher dimensions, and you wake up and you're like, I felt like that was real, and it's like, well, because it was real. You were doing that in a different dimension. But the biggest factor that I always look for is about the what it does for the person. If you are not provoked to grow and to transform and to change, if your life doesn't completely implode around you and make you see all of your flaws and the pains and the ways that you need to grow, it's probably not a twin.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if this makes sense to you. One of the things that I was able to understand and how I can differentiate with other relationships is that the twin flames, for the fact that you feel at home, is probably the only soul that can touch you to the core. And touch you to the deepest core and dark and light places of yourself.
Absolutely.
Like nobody else.
Right.
It's amazing because it's like, how can this person touch me so much?
Yeah.
As different from others, I can have soulmates and have a wonderful communion and communication.
Yeah.
But nobody can touch us to the core like the twin flame.
Right.
Is that how you feel?
Absolutely. I feel and it's not. So I get people. This is I think where people get so attached to the idea of union, because it's like that depth of feeling, and they want to have that, and they want to have that experience with all the time, and so I think that's why people get attached to union. But it's this. The way that I feel about it, it's like that you look into somebody else's eyes and you see God and you see yourself there, and it touches you in just this powerful way. But the thing of it is that it's just a way to open you up to it. Because the reality is that we can feel that. Once we felt it, we know what it feels like. We can feel that with our connection to the divine, which to me, I really feel is part of the point of the twin flame connection, is that it shows you how thirsty you are for that divine.
Yeah, it's because twin flames, we need to understand twin flame is essentially a spiritual relationship. Most people want to make it a physical body relationship, and it can be when we are completely aware and connected to our divine, but essentially twin flame is a spiritual relationship. What does it mean to be spiritual for you? And I'm going to ask you. It's like, if you agree that twin flames, for coming from the name, it's a spiritual relationship, what does it mean?
Well, it means that it's, first of all, that it's grounded in spirituality, not in the physical. And so when you understand that being together in this reality is not necessary, because you're already together in the spiritual reality. So it's about, when you think about spirituality is about connection with the divine. It's connection with all that is. It's connection with love. It's connection with higher consciousness. So that's the underlying purpose of the twin flame connection. And so that is the sort of what it's supposed to open up in us, is our desperate need for the connection with the divine. And once you find that with your within, then you can create that union without outside. And but the thing of it is then this is something I've said before on my YouTube channel, that I'm not a religious person, but I will draw on religious texts. And one of the scriptures in the Bible says, like, I think it's one of the 10 Commandments, no idols before me. And if you worship that twin flame connection more than you worship the divine in them, or the divine period, then it becomes an idol. It becomes something that's actually standing in the way of your relationship with the divine. Right, in separation.
Because, exactly. So what's your YouTube channel so people can visit?
It's Love Revolution with Dr. V. Yeah.
Love Revolution with Dr. V.
With Dr. V,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a really nice way to put it.
Thank
so
you.
through your channel, they can connect with you, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the rain is allowing us to know that
They're telling us it's time to stop.
this is probably the best time to stop. And so I want to thank you for the time, for sharing your insights. And I think this is going to be very helpful for anybody that comes to visit.
Awesome.
So subscribe to my channel, subscribe to her channel,
Yes.
and we'll be in contact for more with Twin Flames. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.